Accessibility is about building things that everyone can use. For Android developers, it is about making apps that can be used by all users, regardless of how they interact with their Android devices. Android users are a pretty diverse group. Some are deaf or hard of hearing, some have motor impairments, some have cognitive disabilities that may impede learning, and some may be blind or visually impaired. And your apps should work for all these users. Many of these users modify the default configurations on their Android device so that they can properly use that device. In this video, you'll find out about these configurations and how and why users may modify them. This is a good way of getting a high-level sense of accessibility features on Android devices. All right, let's start by visiting your settings screen. Then, find the accessibility link and click on it. And this should launch the accessibility settings screen. This is a screen where a user can modify a device's settings to make that device more functional for them. And you should be familiar with the contents of this screen. As a developer, you'll be returning to the screen often in this training. So, what's on this screen exactly? On my Pixel device running Android R, I first see any downloaded apps related to accessibility. I see Accessibility Scanner installed on my phone. Later in this training, you too will install Accessibility Scanner and learn how to use it to improve your app's accessibility. I've also installed Voice Access, an accessibility service that lets users control their devices with spoken commands. Users can use their voice to open apps, navigate, edit texts hands-free. After this, the screen shows screen readers, which are often used by blind and visually impaired users. TalkBack, a commonly used screen reader that is probably already installed on your device, allows users to interact with the device using touch and spoken feedback. Later in this training, you'll learn how to use TalkBack to manually test your apps. Select to Speak is useful for getting spoken feedback only at certain times. Users select items on the screen to hear them read or described aloud, or they point to the camera at something in the real world. After this, you will see settings for changing a device's display. These settings can be used by visually impaired users or those users who may struggle with the device's default color settings. This section includes settings for changing the font and display size, toggling between light and dark themes, using magnification, and turning on color correction and color inversion. In this training, you'll learn about ways to make sure that your apps work well with many of these settings enabled. Next are settings related to interaction controls on the device. This includes switch access, which lets users interact with their Android devices using one or more switches instead of the touch screen. Switch access is typically used by users who may not be physically capable of touching the device screen. In this training, you'll learn how to use switch access, and you will use that to manually test your app. This section also contains a way in which the user can set how long ephemeral or short-lived content should be displayed. This includes things like toasts, snack bars, etc., which can sometimes dismiss a little too quickly. You'll learn in this training how to leverage the user's preferred timeout duration in your apps. And the next section after this contains settings related to audio and on-screen text. These settings can be used to enhance the audio quality when using headphones and to customize how audio is emitted on the device. This section also contains settings for transcribing speech to text and for captioning media. And towards the bottom of the screen, you'll see some experimental settings related to high contrast text and a shortcut related to turning on accessibility features from the locked screen. If you are using a different version of Android, or if you're using something other than a Pixel phone, these settings may be laid out slightly differently. But by and large, most Android devices should allow these or equivalent ways for users to modify the default ways in which their devices operate. Okay, so we'll be returning to the settings screen often in these videos, and we'll talk about the different options we've covered here in much greater detail. For now, remember, users prefer to interact with their phones in many different ways. During videos in this series, you'll learn how to make your apps more accessible for all these users. In the next video, you'll learn about how accessibility works in Android, how some things just work out of the box for users, and other things that you enable by using accessibility APIs. Links for that talk are provided in the description below.